Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. It is the 8th, Wednesday, right? No, Thursday. It's Thursday. What the hell? So we got my gosh, what the hell? Hold on. You know what? I know what's wrong. Hold on. I am all out of sorts, but let's go into the charts first, okay? E-mini yesterday, kind of sideways, strong close, overnight, higher. So in the Asian session, things looking pretty good. 10-year treasury moved around quite a bit yesterday, I thought. I guess it's not as big as some of these other moves, but it was good movement. It was tradable. It's moving back up. I'm actually kind of thinking, given the environment and everything else, maybe we actually see treasuries recover quite a bit more and get back up into, maybe almost up to 134. It could happen. Coming back into oil continuing to chop around. Still unclear over in that direction how things are going to turn out. Gold and silver actually having a move up, and that might be it. That might be, well, especially if we had another update tomorrow, that could be enough to start triggering automated strategies to start getting into this. So you want to keep an eye on gold and silver here today. Copper also up today, making sense as the Asian session has been a little bit up. And, a key driver to all of this, some dollar weakness. Nothing too extreme yet, but some dollar weakness. So, there's been a lot of dollar strength past few weeks. Dollar being weak, big deal, could help support markets. Despite markets being overall difficult and struggling. We got almost everything up. Bitcoin leading the way. Corn, of course, doing well again. NQ leading the other indexes. So I'll be right back. Hold on just a second. You know what? I don't know what my deal is. I'm just a little off this morning. How long have you been on today? I just got the notification. I try to start it as close to 8:20 Eastern time as I can, but as of late, I've been taking longer to shower and eat breakfast than I should be, and so it's been a little bit more like 8:25 lately. But that's when you should get the notification. But that's where it's like, the YouTube notifications are a little weird, right? So, that's where first you got to make sure that you're subscribed and you click the bell icon and that you have the notifications turned on. But that's also where I would recommend down in the video description, I have the permanent live stream link, and I would just bookmark that and open it up when you come in, and that way you will catch us right as we go live. And there's a good number of you guys that do that. So here right from the get-go. Okay, so let's make sure we got Discord set up here. Oh yeah, we got to go in and do the live stream on Discord. Open the stage. There we go. Okay. I don't want that. So I have this chart open here. I've had some issues in the past where if I minimize it, my level 2 thing doesn't run. But I think I'm okay to minimize it though. Because I've got 4 algorithms running here right now, and I'm going to try it because otherwise, like, I can't see stuff and it's just a big mess. Oh yeah, Pierre commented at 8:04 according to the live chat. Because what he did is Pierre has it bookmarked. So as soon as I create the event, he can come in and start chatting. So you can actually start chatting before I start it. So normally what'll happen is around the top of the hour, I'll come in and I'll create the event. And at that point, if on your YouTube homepage, you should see like the event is scheduled. I should probably start setting that up before I go to sleep at night. I stopped doing it because it will like recommend on your page, and then that was annoying. But I don't know. Probably fine. So as soon as you see that, or if you have it bookmarked, you can come in and you can start chatting before the stream actually starts and it sends the notifications out. Okay, so here comes the numbers we're looking for. Continuing initial claims of 680K. Let's see what we get. Okay, higher than forecast jobless claims. We're in the 744 versus 680K expected. So higher than forecast. Catching a little bit of a hint of flattening here. And you see all of this absorption at 26.5 in the 5-year. So somebody was actually trying to sell it down one even. And major absorption on it. Cool. I probably could have held that for a little bit more because look at that. They just kind of went through. So it looks like the treasuries are reading that as good because that might mean Fed less likely to have to come and step in. I am noticing that Bitcoin is moving a little bit here in the morning, kind of bouncing off of 5,500K. I'm also apparently, hearing on Twitter and over the wire that the U.S. Senate is drafting legislation that says the U.S. must keep China from gaining regional control in the Indo-Pacific in the coming decades. How would that be legislation? Is that just like a statement, I guess? I don't know. Now Anthony Crudelli is doing an event. Or who is that? Oh, let's see here. Let's open the tweet up like that. Maybe it'll show me. I don't know what they're all talking about. Oh, Twitter is not showing me the whole thread very well. Traders Invitational October 1st through the 2nd. Oh, okay. Okay. It was like in a reply thread to a reply thread to a reply thread. I'm like, what's going on? Why don't I know what they're talking about? You know, I was kind of thinking last year, oh, hey, we could do, we could go to one of these big trading conferences or something. Okay, yeah. If I keep it minimized, it does not show me. Yeah. Now, what if I do that? What if I have something in front of it? Not minimized, but something in front of it. That's a little better. None of them traded off of that, but it was close. Interestingly enough, the E-mini selling off of that. Where should I invest this 4K, bro? I don't give recommendations like that. You can go and find Steve, Real Stock Market Steve on TikTok, and he might tell you, but I warn you that whatever he tells you is probably a really bad idea. Oh man, so there's this, what is this stock? Athletic Sports something, ASO, right? Is that what it's called? Academy Sports. Academy Sports and Outdoors was a ticker that was trending on Wall Street Bets. So I was going to have Steve talk about it. And it already blew up. It already blew up. I was like, dang it. I should have jumped on that one yesterday. But it's already blowing up today. That's why I ask you loud. No, but like, here's the thing is that our ability to predict future prices is extremely limited. You notice the plays that I make are tiny in comparison to what happens. I don't know. Sometimes I do seem to have like a good idea of where it's going to go, but it's like there's so many things that can come in and screw that up. You know what I mean? It's like if everything goes according to like what it should, then yeah, it'll go this way. But like a news event could happen. All of these things can happen. I can't predict that. And I am not, I have not focused on like your portfolio theory and modeling companies and, finding which ones to invest in and all that stuff. That's not my thing. And I personally feel that a lot of people give stock recommendations in a way that I don't really feel as you should. I think it's a little irresponsible. Mostly because it encourages retail traders to just follow somebody. And I don't think that that's what you should do. I think that if you're going to manage the money yourself, that you need to know what's going on, right? If you're not going to do the research and find out what's going on to find what a good investment is yourself, you probably shouldn't be managing the money yourself, and you should just put it into an index fund, right? So I guess that's my answer, is you should put it in an index fund. Steve will know the answers, yeah. So Steve will always answer your questions, but he will first always try to elevate himself in whatever answer he gives, and to give the most wrong bad answer. So those two things in sequence. Like yesterday, He was talking about which day trading software he used, and he was claiming that he used Ready EMS. Okay, yeah, that's like tens of thousands of dollars a year to use. So obviously he's not. But see, it's not that that's bad software to use. It's that it elevates him. It makes him look good. So he'll always do that first. And then if the thing is that can't do that, then he will give you bad advice. Miss me with the full house stuff. Well, I ask you because you're smart. Well, and isn't it that if you think I'm smart, first of all, thank you. It's something that I've always, I consider myself pretty average in most respects. I do understand that there are a couple of things that I can do, and I know that most people can't. But I'm pretty sure that my IQ is not, I'm not like 130 IQ individual or anything like that. Online tests will tell you that, but those are bullshit. Anyways, but people tend to tell me that I'm smart. Okay. So if you think I'm smart, that's great. But this thing that you should be taking away is that the smart guy knows to not make outright predictions like that, because our ability to actually make those kinds of calls are very limited. Sebastian, it feels like banks like Credit Suisse and the people getting leverage are little boys playing the market with crazy risk. So why are you telling me to ask Steve? Well, because you want an answer. I'm just... At least you'll know what not to do. Steve will probably tell you to all in on ASO. No, Sebastian, I am totally with you. So what we are seeing in the market right now is something that I have not seen before. And, well, at least I have not seen during bull markets before. I have certainly seen this kind of behavior when markets are on the downturn. When, there's some sort of external event like the Euro crisis, a really, really great example, right? Everybody's all in. It's really crazy bullish, and then the Euro crisis comes along. They try to say, it's not a big deal, but the markets came down. And because the markets came down, there were a lot of people that had, risky positions on, and they had to take them off. And when it comes down to those lows, you get like this forced selling and all sorts of really crazy action where it's like it goes down a ton and then it goes up a ton. And individual stocks, there's a wide variation in individual stocks, that sort of a thing. And it's all because a lot of that action is actually margin calls, right? Well, I've never seen that at all-time highs, and it suggests to me the criticism that the Federal Reserve is putting too much liquidity into the economy and is in doing so encouraging excessive risk-taking. I think that is really strong evidence in support of that theory. And that we are seeing other people getting hit now as well, with a big block order being, shopped around for academies, sports, and outdoors. A stock that wasn't down, so who knows why they were forcing liquidations on that one. It and I'm sure that every risk manager out there right now is thinking, okay, which other ones are lurking out there? We got to look through all our stuff and try and find these things. And I definitely, the thing I like what you said there, Sebastian, is it's like people getting leverage are little boys playing the market with crazy risk. That's exactly what's happening, because these people that are making these risks do not understand the market enough, nor do they understand their impact on the market, nor do they understand the risk that they're taking on to be taking these kinds of trades and to be given this kind of leverage. like this whole thing with Viacom and all of that. It's like, yes, if you buy a ton of the stock, you will have an impact on the stock, and the stock becoming a high flyer will cause retail traders to get interested and bring more money into the stock. But there is a limit to that, right? Because of the square root law of market impact, the higher and higher it goes, the less impact you're going to be able to have. And eventually it's going to come back enough that the leverage is going to force you to completely unwind everything. And you're going to blow up. It's just a matter of time, right? Most of these not been going on long enough for it to happen yet. But it's inevitably, it's going to happen. And I think that you're going to see the same thing eventually with like ARK and Tesla and all these other names that are just like, you know, moving at insane levels compared to what their earnings are and everything, right? The market shouldn't behave like this at market highs, and I find it really confusing to some extent and really unsettling. Are you saying they drag in down? Well, so when you start trading something, if you execute a large meta order, because of the way that the order book works, the book kind of starts fighting against you. So your impact isn't linear. People think that like if you put in 1,000 contracts and it moves the stock up $10, that if you put in 2,000 contracts that it should move the stock up $20, and it doesn't. It like ends up moving the stock up $18. And the more and more you put it on, you know, the less that impact has, and there's like an upper limit on the impact that you can have. And then especially if there's a sell against you at that time, like an equal order against you, because you've left this wake behind you, it'll fall harder and you'll actually end up lower than when you got it. So you can't really make money just from your execution impact alone, at least certainly not on like a short-term basis, right? That's what I'm saying. So then what you got to do is take it with enough leverage that you get retail traders involved and they bring it up, right? But then, like again, like there's a limit to it. You get all of the retail traders involved, it goes up, and then you get to this point where like it just can't go anymore, and then it's going to come back. And somebody's buying too much up at the top, then they are forced to sell, and it's just a cascade. So, but see, these guys, they've never done that math. They don't understand that stuff. They think that I just need to get put as much risk on as possible to push it as far as possible, and that's how we're going to make money. They've bought completely into the idea that you can make money just from your execution impact. And all of the banks and all of these other guys that have been trading for hundreds of years now know that that's not true because they've tried it, you know, decades in the past and got screwed. And they realized, oh yeah, we just shouldn't take a trade unless we have a reason for it to move in a certain direction, and we need to size our trade according to what the market will allow, right? And that's how these guys that stay in for a long time are able to do it. I am missing my oh, actually, you know what? It's not even there. My power meter is gone. It's probably not actually gone. It's probably just hiding. What is that? What's with that? See that little arm thing doesn't It's gone. It doesn't display. I guess I'll just reopen one. There we go. Cool. Are there laws on overusing or abusing algos used by firm that are initiated manually and aggressively hit the bid, etc.? Well, so there's this whole thing about market manipulation, right? People talk about market manipulation. Market manipulation typically has more to do with sending out false information, though, right? So a lot of people say, oh, if you come in and you take aggressive trades to try and move the market in your direction, and everybody says, oh, well, you're manipulating the markets, and there should be a law against that. That I would say that this kind of algorithm that you're talking about, Sebastian, that aggressively hit the bid and so on and so forth, that is putting them at making them vulnerable, right? If you're coming in and you're aggressively hitting the bid to try and force it up, really what you end up doing is creating a vacuum that sucks price back into it. And so you might get like a tick up. You might get like a, like when they come in and they sweep the E-mini. Watch what happens when somebody comes in and sweeps the E-mini. And ask yourself, why would they do that if that's what it tends to do every time? Because if you mark those spots, I think you will find that they are not always just like continuation places where it goes up and those guys make tons of money. It's not. It becomes a hole. And if somebody decides that you're wrong and they take an equal trade against you, you're going to be screwed. If I had a ton of money, I would not be coming in and sweeping orders like that. No, sir. Hit up the WhatsApp. That will tell you to invest your money with a profitable manager. I mean, you can put your money in some sort of a fund that you believe in, yeah. But I kind of feel like if you're going to do the research to find out if a fund is actually good and is going to perform well into the future, why wouldn't you just do the work to, manage it yourself? I don't know. I was thinking about this yesterday because one of the TikTok that I'm doing for Steve today, I already recorded it, is about like, who do you follow? What are some things that you look for to follow? And of course, Steve always says, well, follow the person that claims to be making the most money and has the largest social media following and has a really expensive Telegram service and all of these things. Right? But when you think about the industry, okay? This one time, so I worked for Goldman Sachs. I did not trade for them. I worked in technology in the Salt Lake City office. So I was away from the traders. I got to talk to them like once or twice. Okay. But there was this one guy that sometimes I would see in the lobby and I would talk to from time to time. You will see this guy on television now. He's got glasses. I forget what his name is, but he was like in charge of the guys in the Salt Lake City office. And now apparently he's in charge of all of Goldman Sachs information research. Okay. And, so when he told me that he was in the information research, so I asked him about it, and I asked him like, okay, so what is kind of like your analysis of like the S&P 5, or I forget what it was. It wasn't the S&P, but it was like the thing that he was looking at the time. Okay. So first it was like what he described for the analysts was crazy. Like it was so incredibly stressful and aggressive because they've got to do really deep, really hard research trying to find information on companies or on, asset classes that nobody else is aware of, right? And do that kind of sophisticated analysis, complicated models, and all of these sorts of things. And then there tend to be on time constraints as well, because you need to find all of that information in a timely manner so that it's still relevant to the markets when you release it. So I asked him about like, what is he seeing at that time in the issue that he was talking about? And it was just way over my head. I had no clue what he was talking about. Like, I didn't really know anything about the asset class that he was talking about. And he was talking about factors in that asset class that he thought were going to matter a lot over the coming months that I knew and I'd never heard of before. I didn't understand a thing he said. And that's what these analysts guys are like, like they really know their stuff, right? And that's who you're competing with. Like that's who you're competing with. You got to ask yourself, do I really think that I can compete with that? It's a serious question, At the very least, the majority of retail traders are going to, got to step it up, right? Because one, your own analysis is going to have to be way more sophisticated than what I think the majority of retail traders trying to manage their own money do. But then beyond that, you're just not going to be able to compete with them in general because they've got the best and they've got a huge group of people and it's just you, right? So if you're going to beat them, you've got to be smart. You've got to be able to utilize an edge that they don't have. So this is why I really like the book One Up on Wall Street, because Peter Lynch talks about the one edge that you can have over the Wall Street analyst is that they are focused just on that thing, and they don't live like normal people because it's really stressful and they're in the Wall Street culture and everything. Whereas you, if you're a regular person, you're down to earth, you can see what people are using, things that are brand new, that are becoming popular, that could be big investment opportunities in the future, that the guys on Wall Street have are never, not even on their radar, right? That's a great way to do it. That's a great way to find an edge that they don't have, right? And it's kind of, it's the same thing here in day trading is like, can you beat the algorithms? The stacking and pulling game, with that alone, no. You're going to have to find something that you can do that the algorithms aren't doing. Well, it looks like the Treasury is backing off of that little bull run there quite a bit. I don't remember when I took that trade. which could have been worth more than one tick, but I only took one, was at 27.5. So they're still basically right where it was. So I guess that's fine. The E-mini hasn't really moved yet. I do see Bitcoin is still running. Now up 2%. Corn up a little bit higher, but most of them pretty flat. NASDAQ leading the way. YM trailing and down a little bit. Maybe because YM has a lot more energy constituents in there, and oil is down at the moment. Oil has been a ride lately, hasn't it? You don't want to be left holding the bag. Yeah. I don't know. When I look at the behavior of the markets. Oh, I saw this really great TikTok. I can try and relate this to. This guy was talking about that how some of the smartest people and the people that are the most expert in the craft that they do are not very good at teaching it to other people, right? And he says the reason why is because there are things that their brain has automated because they've been doing it for so long that they don't even know how they do it anymore because their brain just does it for them. Now, of course, there was a time when they didn't know how to do it and they learned it. And it might not have been like a completely conscious process, but they did learn it. And so now they have to relate those skills to new people. And those are the skills that the new people are going to need the most, but they don't even know how they acquired those skills or how they worked. Right? And I wonder if that's happening with trading, because so many things I see people say on Reddit and other places, I'm like, this is all nonsense. Why would you guys believe any of this stuff? Like, why are you not checking to see that the thing that you're saying actually happens, actually works? Because it doesn't. I've gone and tested it, and it's total nonsense, But the majority of people, I can't wrap my head around it. It's so perplexing to me why people would believe some of the dumbest things. I'm kind of tempted to go long in the E-mini here. They're getting a decent amount of up movement. Cumulative delta is negative, but it's a super tiny amount. I wonder, by the way, here with my power meter. Oh, I guess it goes in the middle no matter what. Okay, fine. Thank you for speaking for that. Well, I don't speak for anybody. I can tell you a lot of things that people tend to believe at the beginning that don't work and are going to hurt you in the end, right? And the biggest thing, the thing that retail traders don't seem to get, is that this is competitive. The game is competitive. And for any particular edge, there is a limited amount of money available in it because of execution impact. You can literally go in and calculate based on where if it's going to move to a certain location, you can go in and calculate based on the volatility of the market of price and the volatility of the order flow, what the optimal number of contracts to trade for that edge. And once that many people have gotten once that number of contracts has traded on that edge, it's gone. It's gone. And you've got to be as early into that process as you can. How are you going to do that? How are you going to do it faster than everybody else? Right? Everyone wants to trade like a moving average crossover. How are you going to You know, if there's a true edge in a moving average crossover, how are you going to take the trade before anybody else does? Get in earlier, but then it ruins, you know, you take it before there's an actual signal and you don't get as high of a percentage. You know, these things people don't think about. So they end up trading strategies that are destined to lose because they don't consider the competition. Is it true that for every person who profits on a trade, someone else is losing? On a short term, on short time frames, pretty much. So in futures, it is absolutely zero sum. Stocks are not zero sum per se because the value of the stock goes up and increases, right? But on a daily basis, yeah, those gains and losses are generally coming from somebody else. I would look at it. It's so the thing that people are saying when they bring that up. I would look at it a different way. There are different participants in the market. One of the participants is the market maker who is trying to make money just on the spread. One of the participants is an informed trader, somebody that has actionable information that hasn't widely been disseminated in the market. Okay, I'm not saying insider information or illegal trading or anything, but they know something that can move the stock that not everybody knows. Okay, and they want to make money on that information. But here's the thing. As soon as they start trading it, it's going to move the market, right? And moving the market is going to reveal that you know something. So you need to make enough money on the trade to that it doesn't that your execution impact doesn't diminish the edge that you have, right? Otherwise, you're better off just being quiet about it, right? So in order for it to be worth it to actually trade on that information that you have, there has to be a certain amount of activity out there. Because if there's not, then there's no point in taking it. There's no point in taking the risk. So there has to be a certain amount of noise out there to cover your tracks, right? So if you're out there trading and you're just clicking in because you hope that it's going to move up, or you saw something that everybody else can see that you believe has a probability of it moving up and it really doesn't, what's going to happen? You're going to lose to the guy that actually knows where it's going to go because he knows something, right? What platforms do you use? I'm using Jigsaw Day Trader and NinjaTrader 8. I have a video on my channel. When you visit my channel page, it'll be like front and center. What is the best day trading software platform? Where I talk about what I use and why. There's also an affiliate link. So if you choose to buy Jigsaw, and the reason I recommend Jigsaw is because it has the best DOM, then if you use the affiliate link, then we helps the channel out quite a bit. Oh, Sebastian, thank you very much. I'm glad that you're finding this information useful. Well, the markets dipped there about 3 minutes ago. And I would say that they recovered it pretty easy. But look at these bars, okay? Like the number of price changes within a 5-minute time period, really low right now. So there is just a very little activity in the market. Something like 100 contracts, 200 contracts a minute. That's not enough activity for us to be able to execute on our traits. So, or for me to execute on my traits at least. Oh, thanks. I think, I put a lot of work into those videos, so it really makes me happy when people say that they've been useful. And I have a couple more videos to make, but I kind of got to sort things out with the baby. Because what happens is I'll be like, okay, I'll record, but the baby needs to be asleep. And then the baby doesn't go to sleep, or he doesn't sleep the time that he's supposed to. So I think that I'm going to have to go through, I spend a lot of time like recording these sometimes and like sorting out my thoughts. I think I'm going to have to like write up a full script for this and then just wait for him to go to sleep and then speed record it, because they only get like 90 minutes, 2 hours to do it. But I think the next one that I'm going to do is just about the process of developing. Yeah, baby has priority. Yeah. Maybe, another thing is I need to go to the gym because they were going to give me let me borrow their blocks. Maybe we can convince grandma to watch him on Saturday so that I can go and get those. Which also means that I need to tell my wife to make sure she takes the car and leave me the van. Oh, does Patrick Rooney stream now on YouTube? That'll be great. That'll be great. He's great. Yeah, he does. Well, maybe later today I'll come back and watch it. Started streaming 7 hours ago. Are you kidding me? Oh, no, wait. This isn't him. This is on Traders Talk. That's different. That's different. Or is that his channel? I don't know. The Hill report says he nears his third month of his presidency. Biden has made a habit of leaving Washington on weekends for his home state of Delaware. He's gone 5 times so far in his presidency, including one middle of the week overnight stop. And I'm sure that the media will totally throw a complete fit over how much money the Secret Service has to spend every time that he goes to his home state of Delaware, just like they did with Donald Trump every time that he went to Florida. Not. 500,000 new vaccinations registered in the UK yesterday. Oh, wow. That's a lot. I was reading this morning that they are at herd immunity, so. Do you rec any news sources? It's difficult for. What do you mean by rec? Or do you mean read? Well, I try and read as much as I can. I should probably buy a subscription to like the Financial Times or Bloomberg News or one of those, but every time that I look at it, I don't see the kinds of stories that I really want to read, because what I really want to read is like the real analysis from sophisticated Wall Street analysts. And sometimes you'll get stories like that on Zero Hedge. But the number of they have a subscription too, but the number of stories that they put out like that are worth subscribing to is, I don't think, high enough to justify subscribing to it. Oh, do you recommend any news sources? So that's the one that I would recommend people watch. Now, that's really controversial to say you should read Zero Hedge, because Zero Hedge posts a lot of right-wing nonsense, It's tends to be, so you got to realize that a lot of zero hedge posts are not written by them. They're reposted from somebody else's website. You'll see it at the top. So they follow a lot of right-wing people, and so there's a lot of political stuff. Anti-globalist, anti-Federal Reserve kind of stuff. They have a bias against the Federal Reserve that could be harmful to your trading. So you've got to be able to discern for yourself what information is good and what information is bad. But they do post stuff on that website, analysis, things about the gamma and the way that certain automated strategies work and so forth, that is actionable and will help you significantly in navigating the daily action. So I would recommend watching them. CNBC here is another one that people criticize a lot. They say, the stocks that are carried by CNBC tend to do poorly. Jim Cramer's calls tend to do poorly, etc. Well, that's always going to be the case from anybody that is widely followed because, again, execution impact, right? That's why you really can't just follow somebody else's stock recommendations, because if their recommendations are any good or they have any kind of following, I mean, otherwise, how would you have found them? They're going to have an impact, and that impact is going to arbitrage away the edge that you might have had in their picks, right? But CNBC is also like the most widely watched. It gives you the best. I want to say, you kind of want to get an idea of what the sentiment is and what people are thinking at the time. And I think that they do that the best, right? You can get past the Bloomberg paywall by editing the script on Chrome. Oh, yeah, okay. This is every time that I go to Bloomberg, the number of stories that, like, from just reading the titles that I'm like, oh, I really want to read that. That's information that could be useful to my trading that I don't see anywhere else. I want to read that, I don't see enough of them. The only place that I really see a lot of articles like that is Zero Hedge, but I digress. CNBC, especially their shows like Fast Money, right? Those give you such a good idea of what people are thinking. How much use that actually has, I don't know. I mean, it's maybe sometimes it's useful and sometimes it's not, but I think that you get the best kind of like feeling of the markets from watching CNBC. So that's one that I would always go and read, at least. I say the Financial Times is really good too. I've thought so many times about getting a subscription from the Financial Times. The thing that's cool about the Financial Times is they're based in Europe, so you get a lot more of a global perspective. Because everybody in the United States is so very overly focused on what's going on in the United States, right? Then Politico. So you really want to understand what's going on in politics? You got to read Politico, man. That's a lot of boring stuff that most people don't care about. It's kind of died down. There was a time period where there was a lot of, sensational stories and stuff like that, but they've kind of gone back to a real analysis of the political situation. And so you get a very good idea of what's going on with specific pieces of legislation, what's going on behind the doors that doesn't typically get reported on, and, some idea of how certain legislation will come out and where things are going to fall and that forth, so forth. And that's how I'm able to make a lot of those calls about like politics that they're not going to be able to get rid of the filibuster. And I'd still say, despite them trying to get Manchin to waver on it, they're not going to get rid of the filibuster, for instance, right? Probably Joe Biden's tax plan. Something will pass, but I don't think that will be the current proposal. Because I don't think that those two moderates will go for it. Not that I would condone such a thing. Oh, yeah, gotcha. Well, yeah, if it's a good news source, I'm totally willing to pay for it. The issue with stocks, man, is that anything that's like really worth something, they like really charge for it, you know? It's just, you know, if I could get Goldman Sachs 360 again, I would do it. I would do it, but it's expensive. Financial Times tweets, artificial intelligence bias can be countered if not erased. And there's a story. But we wouldn't be able to read it because it's on the Financial Times. Beyond Meat to expand in-store presence to 5,000 at 5,000 US stores. It looks like dollar continues to be weak here. Let's kind of take a tabs on everything. Oh, where's my little chart here? Cool. But none of them have taken a trade, huh? Yeah, well, it's a really quiet market. I guess there hasn't been enough excess for them to justify getting in yet. Anyways, dollar down. The only thing that I can really see still in the market right now that seems significant is that the dollar is weak today. And other than that, things haven't really moved here for the first hour. It's been like that a lot, you know. It's been like, there's no real reason to come in so early, but thank you again, Sebastian. I heard someone trade off of the habits of a bird reacting to weather in a certain area and correlated that with a specific asset related to the area. Wow, well that's... I don't think that I would be able to have the balls to trade something like that. That would be... I would automatically think that, you know, it's not a real correlation. You mentioned working for Goldman Sachs. Did you gain a lot of knowledge? How was that experience? Well, I definitely learned a lot there. And I definitely liked working there. After I stopped working there, I kind of realized that there was some demands that I was not up to. Like the amount of stress that they were asking on me on the things, like the stuff that I started doing there was fine, but as things went on and you were picking up more responsibility, you know, there was a lot of pressure, and they were asking me to do something that I was not very good at. I was like pushing out these systems that were very sensitive systems, and so you have to like document the process of pushing it out very meticulously, and that is not me. I mean, you guys can tell, right? I make little mistakes here. I'm not the guy that dots every I and crosses every T. I'm just not. My brain simply doesn't work that way, and it was really frustrating because I told them, like, no, like, why are you giving me the thing that I'm the worst at? It's like you want me to fail. Oh, still kind of makes me mad. Okay, but and the thing was I wanted to work there because I was interested in trading. Did I get to trade? No. Did I learn a lot about trading? Well, I think the thing that I learned about trading was that almost everything that we know of as trading knowledge is not really useful, and that the big traders at the firms, they don't look at any of that stuff. You know, like all of the technical details about different moving averages and what's the best one and stuff like that. They don't look at that stuff. Did you go to an Ivy League? No, I didn't. I went to the University of Utah, and they recruit out of the University of Utah. And I didn't know that, but I applied to them directly. And so when they came through, they asked me to interview. And I think really the reason why they took me in was because I knew I had really studied a lot about the market. By that point, I had already read a bunch of books and stuff. Like I knew how options worked. They probably like Mormons. That's exactly what it is, I'm sure. Yeah, one of the things that's always benefited me in my career is, if there is a sensitive issue, there's been a number of times, both at Goldman and where I work now, where there was an incident and investigation had to be done, but it had to be done quietly because it was a sensitive issue. Like somebody, as an example that I can tell you now because it's like long past happened, but as an example, there was at the call center, there was one of the employees was stealing social security numbers, right? So I had to go through and like find everybody that they had ever talked to or looked up, that sort of a thing. And they always picked me because they knew that I would be reliable and that they didn't have to worry about somebody, trying to take advantage of it, So that's why they like Mormons. This is definitely a thing. Same with the FBI, apparently. Because apparently this is something that I find really interesting, actually. Because in popular culture, right? In popular culture, there's this overwhelming message these days I see that is like, everybody should just have fun and, morality has changed. You can have loose morals now. It's totally okay. All of these things. But then when you look at U.S. government agencies, okay, like if you want to work for the CIA, the FBI, or you want to have a high-level position in the military, they look at those things. They factor those things in. And I find that incredibly interesting. Okay, a little bit of a move there in the E-mini, so maybe some interest in doing something here on the open. We'll see. It kind of looks like they want to buy. Were you miss? I wouldn't say so. I could go and work there again, but the issue with them is that you are limited on what you can invest in, essentially. So you can't buy anything that's like on a restricted list. Like if they've done business with that company recently, you can't invest in them, which with the number of people that Goldman Sachs works with, that's a lot of companies. You know what I mean? Not to mention that you can only make trades like once every month and all. So you can't day trade. You can't trade futures. I couldn't do what I'm doing now if I worked for Goldman Sachs, right? It was just, what was your previous role? I was just a technology guy. Technology analyst, I guess is what they call it. And I was working in risk controls at the time, but I did a bunch of different stuff. I did testing and verification tools and did GUI platform management. And I wouldn't say that I was mistreated. There was one person that was there that I kind of felt was out to get me. But really, I don't blame him because one, I don't think that he was, I mean, like, I know in my head, I feel like that he's out to get me, but like, can you prove that he's out to get you? Like, no. And the chances are that it's not, and you just feel that way. You know what I mean? So I think that it was kind of more just him and his personality, and he don't know how to deal with things. And I don't think, something that I've noticed a lot. Oh man, this is so hard. Is people that want to be managers, and this guy, I think he wanted to be a manager, and I think he kind of missed his opportunity. Aren't good at it. And I've had a number of situations. I remember this one time there was a guy, he was like new on the team, and then they chose to make him the manager when I had been on the team longer, and I felt like I could have done a better job, but I don't necessarily want to be the manager because I'm not good at keeping track of everything, right? So, and he was just kind of okay at it, and eventually decided he wasn't good at it and he didn't like doing it, and he wanted to move, to a different role, and so he did. And yeah, and one of the things is like your ability to talk to a person and know what they're like and what they're good at and what are the best ways to motivate them and what are the best tasks to give them and how to go through and like keep track of what everybody's doing to make them look good. And not very many people are good at that, And the issue that I had there was that the people that were good at that were not really directly involved with us anymore. So I couldn't really do anything about it. But it was bigger than that. The company changed, there was a lot less, they opened it up as like, well, we want to have people working in Salt Lake on all of these things that we typically do in New York, and we think we can move them to a place where we don't have to pay people as much in Salt Lake, and it's a better environment for them to work in anyways, and all that stuff, right? And then they realized that for a lot of those things were really technical, and the people that did it were hard to keep. And so they just kind of kept everything in New York, if that makes sense. So essentially what happened was a lot of the equities technology stuff in Salt Lake just left. So like, because I remember I had gone through I had survived like 3 layoffs, I think. There was at least 3 that I can remember where they laid off a significant portion of the equities technology guys. And when the round that came through and when I stopped working for them, that was when they really started making significant changes. And like the vast majority of the guys in equity technology were gone. Didn't do that anymore. And the people that stuck around got moved over into the Marcus thing. Like they're working on the banking system stuff, the retail banking system stuff. So really, when I look back on it, I realize now that like really the company was moving away anyways, and that was the main reason why things happened the way they did. And the other thing was that I wanted to trade, and because of the London whale, that was never going to happen. They weren't going to let somebody that knew that much about the risk control systems be a trader. So that was kind of a bum deal, right? So I probably wouldn't work for them again, just because I want to keep trading, right? Or at least following the markets. I might not always actively trade, because if I don't feel like I have a super strong edge, then, I'll just trade it on sim, of course. But the only way that I would work for them again would be if they were going to hire me to be a trader. It sounds like you would make a great manager. You seem like I don't know if I'm really a people person, to be honest with you. I don't know. I have the ability to, I can get people to trust me. Sure. I'm not organized. I'm just not organized. That's where it's like here with our community, it's good because I can leverage the parts that are good about, like, getting people organized around a common goal and appreciating what they're good at, which I think particularly matters to markets for me to know, okay, this guy in chat, like Uzi tends to trade the ZB, and here's the situations that he's good and he's not good. And, knowing all of that, I think is really good for a stream. But if I had to keep track of what everybody was working on and holding them accountable and making sure that I talk to the other teams to get the things that we need and get the things that the other teams need from us and tracking all of the tasks and all that stuff is nah. And doing all of the paperwork kind of stuff. Oh man, if it wasn't for tax software, doing taxes would be like a complete nightmare for me, because I start reading the boxes and my brain just gets overwhelmed and all of these little questions come up and it's like too much to deal with, So I guess if I had a personal assistant that could do that stuff, then it'd be a different thing. And it would be nice to have somebody that was sitting here with me to do the stream. That would help. But I mean, that's where the issues are. There's a lot. You ask questions that are that was kind of personal. Some of that stuff that I shared about working there. The thing is when I worked there, I really liked working there. And my intention was, I'm just going to work here for the rest of my life. Right. So that's why I kind of say what I do, because what happened was after I stopped working there, I realized that it was inevitable that I wasn't going to be able to work there forever, just because of the direction that the company was going anyways. Right. And that it was better for me in the long run not to work there, because now I can stream and, I can work at a place that's better suited to what I'm trying to do and all that stuff. So. GameStop has tapped a billionaire investor Ryan Cohen sending shares. What? I don't know what that's about. Trading floor audio analysis. Investments get real as inflation fears dim appeal of bonds. With a resurgence in inflation seemingly on the horizon, investors are slashing their exposure to bonds in favor of quote-unquote real assets. Oh, that big surprise. Okay, so we can get involved here now, I think. This might be a little too tight. Yeah, especially right there at the lows and stuff. Oh, so that was a pretty big sweep, so... Okay, so the little bit of selling there, we've kind of created one of those vacuum spots. You can see that wide area all the way up to 81 and a quarter. I guess it was three tick wide slip. Pretty mixed trading so far, though. You look at the cumulative delta there, like big buying going into the open and a big sell, but then flattening out. So if they decide to buy up here, you could be set up for a pretty, another one of those really good high R moves. But the market hasn't been doing those lately, and you can see here even now, though I did get more of the activity that I want, it's dying down a little bit. So I'm getting some hints that it's going to be another slow, churny day. Okay. Bonds are just moving up. Look at this. This right here. A little excursion lower. Not a lot of follow through on that though. But still a lot of sell pressure. So Gary left. Oh, Blunt got banned. But Blunt was always kind of like saying shit and not backing it up, and I got tired of that. Bots is still around. He doesn't talk every day, but he is here almost every day. Ace, I don't know. I don't completely understand what happened with Ace. Hope you're doing well. Curious to know your thoughts on Jimmy and his bear case. Do you genuinely think shorts have covered and people are just looking for confirmation bias? Well, I mean, some shorts have covered. So I'm not going to say that like all of the shorts have covered and that anybody expecting any kind of further rise are crazy. I'm only saying that like the situation where you really it was strong enough that you really knew what was going to happen is gone now. So now it's a situation where I'm leaning that eventually this is going to die out. Yes, but the situation is such right now that I don't think we really know. Too bad. Yeah, I liked Gary, and I don't know why. So with Gary, he was like saying crazy stuff. Like it had been like he was saying a lot of things that I was like, wow, where are you getting that from? And that doesn't make any sense. And then one day it was just like off the deep end, and I was kind of made me skeptical about I don't know. It was just really weird. Ace, I don't know what the deal is with that. I mean, I asked him to be careful about what he said in terms of like seeming to try and induce somebody else to trade, like to be careful with that. And like he took offense to that, and I don't get what the deal was with that. I thought Gary Blunt. Well, Blunt's. I honestly, I don't know, man. The Blunt thing was really freaking weird, to be honest with you, because Blunt would say stuff, but then it was like, okay, prove it. He never would. And he always acted like he knew something, but he wouldn't tell you anything. So maybe he did, but he might as well not be around if he's not gonna, you know? Like, that's sort of the thing, is it's like, it seems like he knew stuff, but he might as well have not have known stuff, because he wasn't gonna give us anything that would be useful. Right? Gary did share us stuff that was useful. A lot of what Gary knew, though, was not really pertinent to scalping, though. Okay, so I took a trade there. Well, I tried doing it again. We weren't able to get sucked back up. So now I think I'm going to kind of wait here. So there's some selling. I'm not convinced that this is like a trend down day, so. But he said stuff that was right too, I guess. But I guess what I'm getting at is that if you have somebody, you can have somebody that's smart, but if you can't get any actual collaboration out of them, they're ultimately useless, right? Not that I don't care about people as people, but we're also, we're running a stream here, you know what I mean? Gap fill, it could be. Yeah, I'm just like, when I'm looking at the order flow in here, like, they're buying this, like, jeez. Like, this looks like the classic buy the dip to me. Nah, I miss him too. And like with Gary, it was like, I put him in timeout. He can come back. And Ace, of course, is more than welcome to come back. I don't know what that was the thing, is it was with Ace, it was so weird. That's like, okay. Didn't really talk to me about it. Just decided to leave. It's like, okay. I tell you what, I've had many times in my past where, I had something going with, usually with girls, right? I remember there was this one girl that I really had no intention of really getting deep into anything with her, because she's a little weird. Let's put it that way. But it was, I had a lot of fun. And I wanted to be closer, and I was like, well, we can at least try something, or I don't know. I don't know what I thought it was going to happen. I think that really in the end, it was just like, I didn't have many close relationships like that, and I just wanted to take as much advantage of it as I could. So I can't think of any other time where I had as much fun just, being around with somebody, so like I was really attached, and she was always really avoidant about it. It was always like, oh, okay, well, I feel like we're hanging out too much now, and things like that. Then I couldn't deal with that sort of thing. Like, it was a real problem like, it caused me a lot of distress, you know what I mean? And it's like that classic, what do they call it? Like stage 5 clinger sort of a deal. I don't know. I was just, it caused me emotional trauma. And I eventually realized that, like, when people start behaving like that, it it triggers something in me that makes you want to get closer. You know what I mean? And I realized that kind of behavior is just toxic to me. So if somebody wants to, cut off a relationship and they're not even going to talk about it, that's not for me. That's immediately, I'm like, okay, then go. Because I've been through that, and I know what works for me and what doesn't. And when people start behaving like that, that's an immediate, like, you're better off going then, So we want to be around people that are going to be secure in relationships, that are going to communicate effectively with you, and that are going to collaborate and add to the stream, right? So, and we still have a lot of people like that. They might not be talking all the time in chat, but so many people talk with me on Discord, and we learn things and I research things, and it's making the stream better still. And I think that the stream is still going really well, and there's a lot ahead of us. So even though it's disappointing that, a few guys are gone. Plus, I'm kind of an asshole, so I get it. if somebody doesn't like me or decide they can't put up with me anymore. I guess no one owes anyone an explanation for anything. Well, no, nobody owes anyone an explanation for anything, but I would say that, like, actually talking things out with people is generally a good skill and approach to have, And people that decide that they don't want to do that, it's kind of like, okay, why are you like that? Why are you like that? It's not something that makes much sense to me. If I spent that much time in a community, and I decided that I wasn't going to be in that community anymore, you sure as hell better bet that everybody is going to know why I wasn't there anymore, and that they had gone through all of the opportunities to, resolve things and have finality on it. Yeah. And that's what it will get you, right? Is that it's like, so like I'm talking about like attachment here. So people that are avoidantly attached like to leave you with a sense of things being unresolved, so that they can kind of leave you and make you feel like, anxious and wanting to go and chase after them. And because it's like unresolved, it's unresolved in your mind, you're likely to go and do that. And then they can always come back to it and be like, oh, like everything's fine now. And then when you do come back, it's like no talk about it, no explanation. It's just like everything's fine now. And you're like, well, but why? Right? That's how they do it. And I've been through it enough times that I'm like, oh no. First of all, don't like it when people do that. And second of all, it's really bad for me. Okay. So that one appears to be playing out a little bit more like what we wanted. Vic's inverted panic continues. Apparently, the Europe vaccines are going better. Don't let them gaslight you. I don't think anybody's trying to gaslight me. Yeah, they were. They were all good. That's what's so frustrating about it. Incorrect password is like, they're all good guys. I thought that things were going really well. I don't understand why they behave the way that they do. They never explained themselves or anything. And it's just like, you know, in my mind, why wouldn't you? It seems to me that that would be like the prudent thing to do, like that would be to your advantage for people to understand what you're thinking and your intentions and stuff. The people that care about you, but whatever. But gaslighting is a different, right? Remember, Kyle, people miss lately, because in the Donald Trump era. So here's the thing: one of the big narratives, storylines that were pushed is that Donald Trump is a narcissist, right? Or some even claiming that he was like a sociopath or a psychopath or something like that, right? And so if you're a narcissist, you know, the big thing that they will do, that people talk about, is gaslighting. Okay, and when we're talking about gaslighting is saying and doing things to intentionally make the other person believe that they are crazy or that they have a poor mental state. So it's like trying to convince somebody that they have a bad memory, trying to convince somebody that the way that they see reality is off. Right? And yeah. So that every time that somebody like is like lies or says something that's incorrect, then everybody says that they're gaslighting. But the key thing that is gaslighting is the intention to make the other person think that they're crazy. You know what I mean? Some of these guys were saying you are the wrong guy when you answer a claim by asking them stats. Yeah, well, doing this shit again? Is that debatable? I mean, I guess, but it was but Kyle is correct that, like, especially in the case of Blunt, it was like I said, okay, provide some stats, provide some statistics that the thing that the claim that you were making is true. And I wasn't asking for like his strategy or like how to do it or any explanation or anything like that. I was just like, provide empirical evidence that you can find a consistent technical edge. He would just talk, and then you'd ask him for that, and he'd shut up. And so there's only one conclusion that I can make, and that is that he's trolling you and that he's full of shit. Because otherwise, why wouldn't he just provide empirical evidence? I would think that somebody that has a real that is into that sort of, that algorithmic edge like that would want people to think of it in terms of, you need the empirical evidence and the stats to back it up before you trade it. And so when somebody like can't show that kind of information when they're asked, that's immediately like, you're full of shit, because otherwise you would have that stuff and you would share it. Not share the strategy, but share the stats about it. I find that people tend to use gaslighting to psychologically defend themselves against insults they can't deal with. Trump insults everyone, so people try to gaslight him. I don't know. There's definitely been some, I don't call it gaslighting, but there's definitely in the media people trying to make things true that weren't true, Trying to change reality by influencing people's opinions. Right. Yeah, that's exactly it, Kyle. So some people do just go in and make the argument that they don't even believe to try and get me to yap on about it, which is whatever. If it's and I will go for it a lot because I find it entertaining to the stream. But and then there's this other side of it, which is just I really hate this idea in trading that you should follow other people, that you'll go and find somebody that's smart and they've figured the thing out and you trade their thing and follow their thing. I don't agree with it. I don't think that you're ever going to become successful trading that way. And it really irks me when I start to see hints of that. And I have built my stream off of being the one person out there that doesn't do that. You know what I mean? So when people come in and they start trying to do that on my stream, it immediately I'm like, okay. And that was especially Ace kind of did it the right way, where he was like, well, I'll just tell you what I'm doing and we'll see what it does. And there is some effectiveness to it. I can tell you this, where he do it. He would have gone long 40.76 if he was looking for a long. I don't know if he would be looking to make a long. He probably would have been short, but I digress, right? Because I understand how his trigger works. I don't think even he understands how he runs it, or if there really is anything to it, and that it's just luck that the ones that he runs happen to work out, right? But that's when it was like, okay, but when you start joking around with people and saying, well, you should have done this, that's when I'm like, that's you're setting yourself up for trouble if you start doing that. I don't want to follow what they did. I want to learn from them. Well, if there's anything that you can learn from Ace, it's that if you get in at the beginning of a trend and let your winners run, that it can be successful. Because that's the gist of what he did, right? And Gary, what did he do? He sold options. If you have a big bankroll and you sell options, you can make money doing that. Yes, sir. So that's what you can learn from him. Luck can be the 1% edge that lasts for a short run. Almost thought I knew something. Nope. Brett. Well, yeah, one of the things that I find really odd about Ace's signal is first I went and tried to optimize it, because the base information that he gave me doesn't really work very well, to be honest with you. It's the runners that seem to make it work. So when I went and kind of optimized things and got something that would run, I was able to get it to work really well. But it was like, during the times that Ace claims to have been trading, it works really well. And before all of that, it doesn't. Immediately before that, it doesn't work. It's like the market just magically decided that it liked that order and changed its behavior just for him. You know what I mean? But when I look at those kinds of stats, and I have other strategies that have had those kinds of behaviors, and it's like, as soon as I start trying to trade it, it stops working. Yes, sir. The market reacts to you. Master Yoda was a good scalper. Well, so I never, he was an interesting guy to have around. I never really got a whole lot of information from him to see how he did or anything. I know that there were times when it seemed like he was trading a lot. So I don't think that he was always successful, to be honest with you. But he's still around. He was messaging me the other day, in fact. He was like, it didn't make any sense to me. He was like, you're still around or something like that. And I was like, well, yes, of course I am. Oh, what was it that he said? It was so weird. Oh, he was ribbing me for that I sell indicators and t-shirts. that you are several years here instead of market each day, and lots of things you do is not about trading. Well, why? I was like, no, I'm going to be here every day, and I'm always going to do this, no matter what. And you know, I run the stream in a way that I can trade and do the stream, and that's fine. I don't know. But I told him I'm going to stream every day. It's never going to end. I'm never going to stop doing it. All the people who seem to know trading again, well, nah, I wouldn't say that. So let me tell you one thing. If there's anybody that I trust that I know has had some really good periods of profitability and is somebody to like watch, but also doesn't really tell you a whole lot about how they do it necessarily, is Uzi. Okay, that guy has been trading for a really long time and makes really good calls and knows a lot about what he's talking about. And a lot of the other ones that have come in have kind of been more like, oh, there's something that we can take from that, but I don't know, you know, how effective are they over the long run? You know, you see a lot of turnover, guys. You see a lot of turnover. I tell you what, like the people that were here watching the stream every day at the beginning, I mean, the people that watch this stream tend to last a lot longer. We've always had a good 30 to 50 people that watch every day, and I don't know all of them. I'm sure that probably some of the most successful ones don't ever talk. So a lot of the things that would make you a successful trader tend to make you a person that wouldn't really be interested in participating a lot in chat. But I digress. There's always going to be people come and go. And you were saying earlier, well, maybe it is Seth. Well, it probably is to some extent, right? A lot of the stream is me, right? And if you don't like me, then you're probably not going to like the stream. We have this tendency of getting approval. I need to make Seth agree with me on that one. I did it too at times, but your agreement makes us any more right or wrong. It shouldn't matter if the profit and loss is up. Well, there you go. We have a small kindergarten. Well, no, that's not true, but listen, you've got to remember, as well as the stream does, as good as we get, as sophisticated as we become, we are still retail traders, and we will always be retail traders. And that is just in and of itself a disadvantage. It just is. Well, I'm not liking the way that came back on me. The flow is still kind of the same, though. I ate red crayon this morning, and I am on timeout until tomorrow. Alligator's still around. Alligator never really watched the stream, but he is active in Discord. If you say something in the interest rate channel, he almost always responds. Yeah. It's kind of funny. The guys that were really here with the stream at the very, very beginning, and I mean the very, very beginning, basically, May 2017, are still here. And that, like, really blows my mind. Those people have never been super active in chat, but they're still here. And that's one of the things is, we do have a higher, I don't know, everybody makes money, but we do have a higher percentage of the community that sticks around, for sure. How do you find your edge? Will you teach someday? No. But, I mean, look at this today. It doesn't look like I have an edge, does it? Because I want to be buying, and they're not doing it. So, actually, things have kind of evened out. So, I haven't done poorly today, but I wish I had come out of this with like $50 already. I feel like I should have, and it's not happening yet. So, in particular, the spot the thing that I really seem to be looking at, it failed twice on me today, so I don't know. I'm looking at my robot. One version of the robot is doing well. It's the version that theoretically should do the best, so that's good, I guess. Kyle says that we have to ask this question when arguing: would my view in markets or my strategy based on it benefit in any way if this guy on YouTube just agrees without pointing a possible fault? It won't really. Well, yeah. But I mean, I don't think that that's why people ask questions though, right? I think that people ask questions because there's a lot of uncertainty in markets. You think that you see something, you've made money off of it. You don't know if it's going to continue working a week from now or a month from now, right? Like, if I look back on my own trading, just the simplest example, when I started trading here, that first 3 months or so of the stream were one of the most successful time periods that I ever had. It was like I literally couldn't lose, and I was just reading order flow and treasuries, and I was getting it right every time. And then May came around, and it stopped working so quickly, man. I can't even. And then after that, it was like literally every day for a solid 6 months before I was able to make some changes and get out of that. But until then, it was like literally every day was dismal losing, you know? And everybody goes through that, right? You have this system, it's like it's not working as well as you think it is, you move on to something else, and then you come back and you think you've got it. And people go through this cycle. So like you read on Reddit, these guys on Reddit, they got something, it worked for them for a month, that they think they've made it, right? Whereas you talk to some of these guys that have been around for decades, and you find out that, well, they find edge in markets and they can make money, but that it's always changing, and they're always changing the way that they trade, right? You know? So I think people ask questions because they want to, they want some reassurance. They want to know, like, okay, is there something that this guy knows that will show that this doesn't work, or that it's likely to work, or whatever the deal is. But the one that gets weird is then it's like you say, okay, well, here's what I know about it, and it doesn't work. But then they turn around and they're like, well, I'm doing well with it, and I know that it does work. And you're like, okay, so prove it. Because you're contradicting me. What kind of empirical evidence do you have on it? And they can't provide the empirical evidence. And so then you have to go, okay, so they think it works when it really doesn't, and they're in denial, or are they just trolling? Or, it's just, they want approval without putting their money where their mouth is. That's probably true too. You seem like a vast knowledge and experience. Maybe write a book. I think I will write a book someday. I'm just warning you though. A lot of the very specific things that I think will matter, I'm not going to share. If I have a specific entry criteria that I think is going to provide me an edge, the last thing I want is for everybody on the stream to know what it is and start sharing it.
Block by.
Because I kind of feel like the reason why some of my really good edges in the past failed so dismally, and even though they were working really well, was in part because other people started trading on it or against it. Okay, so there was some crazy absorption there. Then notice that they it was the right at the open where they kind of fell and pushed lower. So yeah, that right there is indicative of either a bottom or a trend down day. Well, I'm not stopping there, at least. But that was some pretty crazy significant absorption at 40.75. When will there be another voice chat, the live stream Discord thing? I want to talk options with you. I don't know. The thing that was weird about that is I know a few things about options, but I don't know, that kind of strategy isn't interesting to me, I guess. Just because I know it's so it's like if I'm trading, every time that I trade a strategy, I've got to think, okay, why would such an inefficiency exist, right? Oh wait, hold on. Oh, okay, yeah. Why would that inefficiency exist? So in options in particular, it's like, oh, well, because there's a skew to it, right? So when it doesn't work out, you lose a lot. And so I've always kind of, so then the edge has to be that you really know the mispricing, and it's like, okay, but going through and following all of those and mispricing is a lot of, it's probably something that we could go in and do, but you'd have a better chance of doing that kind of a trade if you work for Citadel, you know what I mean? So that one in particular was kind of So, but I think that it was really useful to a lot of people that aren't familiar with those kinds of strategies. So, but I do think that we should have more chats. It's just kind of a question of how do we organize it so that it stays really focused. I think that one of the things that makes the YouTube work really well is that because you got one guy in charge, you guys are all talking to me, and I can pick and choose which things I want to focus on, even though I know that it's not always what people want to talk about, but I get to talk about what I want to talk about, right? And when you bring a lot of other people and you have to be able to provide that kind of structure still for it to work, right? So there would have to be an agenda. So then the question is, all right, what should that agenda be? Well, I don't know. I would really like to hear how people are doing. I would like to hear people's opinions on specific, market moves or things that are going on. Do you think that inflation, how big of a risk do you think that inflation later this year is, for instance, right? That's a great thing to talk about. But then when would we do it? And I think that would be a great thing to do on a Sunday night. But at the moment, that's probably not going to work. So maybe in a year from now. But the other side of it is that I can open up the Discord room for more people to be able to open it. Right. So I think that I'm going to think more about that. and figure out how we can change the permissions up a little bit so that you guys can open up the rooms yourselves, and so that you can come in and you can say, I want to have a discussion about X, and then create it and get people to come in and stuff. Or especially if you guys are having a conversation in chat, So I see a lot of those where there's like a really big ongoing conversation in the equity indexes channel, where you guys should open up the voice chat and do it that way. I did my final paper on QE for my econ class. Oh, really? Oh, well, I didn't know that you were an economics major. Like I say, Seth, what if I have an edge about the most likely direction and we go from there? Yeah, well, so the first question then... The first question then would be, what is the empirical evidence that makes you believe you have an edge on the direction? Oh, you're not. It's on agricultural business. Well, that's just as good. That's, you know what? I tell you, some of the best traders that I've met were on the agricultural side. I have to say. I've been surprised. Oh my gosh, is this really going to do this to me again? Fuck. I'm just getting toyed with here today, aren't I? Okay, so now we're going to go into tilt mode. That was the last one that actually 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess I'm still okay. Probably on that one, I was holding too tight of a stop. I should have adjusted it. I want to get a degree in mathematical finance, though. Well, there you go. Well, that's where it gets difficult, though, man, is like, I don't know. I've found that some of the things that I've learned about market impact and so forth does really help me read the action. Sure. For sure. But their direct applications are not really favorable to retail trading, They are built for large firms to improve their execution. Let's test that edge, but it would be the optimal option strategy to properly test it. Well, you say it's not profitable in futures anyways. So if it's not profitable in futures, then what makes you think that it actually is predictive of the future direction? So I guess the first thing is that to say that something is predictive of the future direction is probably a little too vague, right? We would have to say it is, with a given stop and target, it's predictive, right? Because if otherwise you can just always say, oh, it's going to go up. And then it could be trend down today. And then tomorrow it goes up and you say, see, I told you it was going to go up. But what you could do, but what could be the case is maybe it's something like this. It's profitable. It's break even in the futures because of execution costs and things like that. But that you do get your target 55% of the time. And if you can get it 55% of the time, then you have something you can work with. Yeah. So they come up there. There's kind of this sell guy up there again, but I think that we should be fine. So I did size up to cancel that out, but I had taken so little risk on those first trades that I think that it was fine and justified. I never came anywhere close to my risk limit. So, although if that last trade had not worked out, then I probably would have. So I'll take one off here. If I can. It's a little churny there. A bull put spread is bullish, for instance. You have a fixed loss no matter how far down the underlying goes. It isn't possible to do that in the underlying, get it? So it's possible to be bullish on the markets and still don't be profitable comparable to the option strategy. Yes. Right, because you can set it up so that when you win, you will always make more than when you lose. Yes. But then at that point, that's not necessarily mean that it's predictive of the direction, right? So the way you said about concerning mathematics and trading and how it is hard for a retail trader to find a use for it, it is, but I think it can be used to create algos. Well, yeah. So the big thing that I've found is, and this is kind of where I'm like, well, maybe I'm sharing too much, but one is that liquidity pockets are definitely a thing. Where there are certain locations where they're not able to put up a whole lot of liquidity and it affects the action significantly that you can use to your advantage. So that's one. And two is that if you understand how they execute large meta orders now, you can maybe get a little bit better of an idea of when a large meta order is actually coming through, right? Because you know how they time it and that sort of a thing. But even with all of that, I can't go and write an algorithm that, has if I set an equal risk reward, and we're not factoring the spread in here, so it's just I make 8 ticks or lose 8 ticks and get a win rate more than 60%. I haven't been able to find that. And I have been able to find one that's 55%, but it's kind of tepid. That one requires more data to say. It's always like that. So does an edge that's capable of predicting the direction for 8 or more ticks in the S&P 500 really exist? I'm not sure it does, to be honest with you. I'm not sure it does. If somebody had it, I would love to see the empirical evidence that it exists, even if it wasn't explained to me how it was found. I have to think about that one. When would you... So Kyle is saying here, well, it must be predictive of direction because you make more from doing this one than you do from the straddle in this particular situation. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, okay, so what would cause the vertical spread to work better than the straddle in certain situations? But I kind of think that the reason you want to do a straddle has more to do with you like the company and you think that it's going to go up, or you like the U.S. economy, you think it's going to go up. But let's not say that that's predictive, because I believe, so how can I justify this? I believe that the definition of predictive should mean that you have a greater than 55% chance that it will move a certain number of ticks in this direction than it will before it will move a certain number of ticks in this direction, and that the ticks in your favor and against you are equal. Okay, because if you say, I think that it will move 1 tick up before it moves 32 ticks down, then no duh. The chances of that are really, really high in your favor. It doesn't mean that it's predictive. It just means that you're giving yourself more room on if you're wrong, right? But to really say that it's predictive, to say that this is a thing that's going to predict the direction, and you can predict the direction at that moment more than 60% of the time, the only thing that I know of that can do that is news. So if you just take that one side of it and we say it doesn't exist, at least not in the E-mini, then you really have to question all technical analysis on the E-mini at that point, right? Yeah, but this I don't predict, I anticipate, because true prediction is impossible. In my opinion, nothing I do is predictive. I'm at the mercy of whatever happens. Well, I think you're making a different kind of an argument, Adrian. Because, of course, your signal doesn't necessarily make the thing happen, right? There's no call that you can make that's 100% certain. But what I'm saying is that given equal risk reward, the probability of you winning on that trade is more than 50%. And I would say that for it to really truly be statistically significant, it would probably need to be more than 55%. That's why I say 55, because I have found some things where it's 51, 52% chance that it'll happen, and you just need to increase your sample size and stuff. That's not a big enough gap for you to really truly know. But once you start getting something that's 55, 60% over, a year or a few year time frame, then you're talking about something that really must be predictive, right? But do any of us have? I don't think that any of us have that, and I'm really skeptical that it exists. There you go. My win rate is 40%, and 80% of my profits come from 20% of my trades. Yes, so that's different, right? Because what we're saying is I have a signal that is not predictive of the direction of the market, but it is predictive of that we will have a large move. And it only picks up that there's going to be a large move a certain percentage of the time. But given the risk reward that you're putting up, it has a positive expectancy. And I have found trades like that. Right? And that's kind of how I work. Is I've got a couple of places where you'll lose it over and over and over again, but then when it works out, it really works out, right? I get it. So you're saying in majority of cases, people don't have this predictive edge, and they'll be better off just going for an iron condor, so I have equal chance of a move going against it. Well, yeah, but the reason I'm saying that is this is specific to, does technical analysis work, right? That's really the real argument that is being had here. Can you from just watching market data, predict with greater than 50% accuracy that it will move to a spot with equal risk reward, right? And my claim is, so if technical analysis works, then that should exist. If it doesn't exist, then the reality is that you're only making money from convexity, right? Which means, situations where when you're right, you make a lot, and when you're wrong, you don't make a lot. Or vice versa. When you're right most of the time, but you make a little, and when you're wrong, you lose a ton, right? Iron condors can probably be profitable if you're able to analyze whether options are overpriced or not. My iron condor strat was barely profitable over a 3-month period. Your grail isn't it? Well, I don't believe that a holy grail exists. I guess that's my. I say it's with technical analysis, but here's the larger argument that I'm trying to make to people. Because of the competitive nature of markets and execution impact, there is no such thing as a holy grail. It cannot exist. There will always be risks to certain strategies, and the market will always evolve and change. So there is no holy grail. There's only being in tune with the market at that time, and that's it. That's the best that you can do. Now, if you're going to be in tune with the market at that time, what do you think is going to be more useful to you? Chart patterns and moving averages, or knowing why the market is behaving the way that it is at that time, right? And so I call this day trading nirvana is what I call this. This is the video that we're going to make, right? And I've talked about this before, but being in tune with the market means that you are in day trading nirvana. And the argument that I am making is that day trading nirvana, to achieve it, you're going to get more benefit from understanding the fundamentals and the current narratives in the market, and trying to explain why certain moves happened and what trade theses might be behind those moves, more than you will from studying the technicals of the market. Because the technicals of the market are essentially that markets on short time frames are random. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I think we're all on the same page. So that's why we always get into this argument. It's not because I'm convinced that I'm right, and anybody that says otherwise, then they need to be put in their place. It probably sure seems like that, right? No. It's not that at all. I would love nothing more in life, because honestly, most of the things that I want, I've already done, and I'm happy about it, right? So at this point, there is nothing that I would love more than for somebody to prove that wrong. There is nothing that I would love more, and to be able to trade off of that, and to just only look at the market and always have win 60% of the time with an equal risk reward. That would be absolutely effing amazing if I could use past prices to predict future prices to that degree, right? And everybody seems to say that you can do it, and nobody can prove that it happens. So anytime that somebody comes in and says, oh, well, I can do that, I'm immediately like, okay, prove it. Because I want to know if it's possible, and I want to go and try and find it if it is, right? But then they can never prove it. And so I have to come back to the working theory that I believe that the empirical evidence backs up, which is that you cannot accurately predict the direction of markets on short time frames using historical data. People already know their win rate when doing spreads. It's in the short options delta and is derived from the implied volatility for that. Yep. You have to morph your technical analysis frequently to keep it working. That's sure. For sure, Matt. Well, but then it's like, so how do you morph it? Wait, what if you have a vol edge? Like it says, here's a call, 30% chance to get exercise, but I think it's more like 15. Yeah, that's exactly what you got to do, man. You've got to be able to look at so the way that if I was going to trade options, the way that I think that I would need to do it is I would have all of the options that are available to strikes on the instrument that I'm looking at. And then would say, what are all of the properties about it, right? So given the market conditions, you run the Black-Scholes formula, essentially, or maybe some a more advanced version of it, to come in and say, okay, this is the delta. This is how much they're predicting that this instrument will move over the next, over these certain time frames. This is what they're saying the implied volatility is, and all of those sorts of things. And then I would have to look at those individual properties, and I would have to say, okay, do I know something that has a good chance of telling me that the implied volatility for this instrument should be higher than what the market is pricing? And then you can trade off of it. And Kyle says, you mean arbitrage? I think that's exactly what it is that if you're going to, anytime, what do we say is arbitrage? Arbitrage is taking advantage of a mispricing, right? Everything else that we talk about is trying to use past price to predict future price based off of a pattern. And if the data that we have right now suggests that we really can't predict those patterns on short time frames very well, then anything that we catch that does work is going to be based off of us knowing information that the market hasn't priced in. And at that point, what we're doing is arbitrage. Exactly. Fast prices don't predict future prices, and the idea of IV is BS, right? Well, so this is where it kind of gets interesting. So implied volatility is one property of markets that we have found is not random. It's just that it's way more complicated than that, right? It's like we know that when there's a volatility event that increases the implied volatility or increases the level of the VIX, that we're likely to continue to see other events around that time frame of a similar nature. Volatility clusters, volume clusters. That's the one thing that we know about markets that's not random, right? So in those instances, we can find an edge in the market, but the edge that you're taking advantage of is not a directional edge, right? Right? So I guess what we're saying is there could, I guess I've already admitted, there can be edges that are technical, but they aren't predictive of direction, right? Matt says, because I have experience following the market, so I might have an idea of what to try next. Yeah, so when you're working from that framework, Matt, here's how I view it. I have some strategies that when the market is trending, they work really well. And I have some strategies that when the market is mean reverting, they work really well. And so the question is just, for the next 5 minutes or for the next 30 minutes, is the market going to be trending or mean reverting? And I have searched and searched and searched for some sort of, I don't know, maybe I haven't searched for this as much as I would like, but I don't really have any ideas, to be honest with you, about how to do this. Is there something I can look at that will tell me that is predictive of whether or not we'll be trending or range bound? From a purely technical standpoint, haven't found something that is effective enough that I could trade that sort of a thing. Otherwise, what I would do is I would write a strategy that says if it's trending, take this entry, and if it's mean reverting, take this entry. Easy peasy, right? But there are things about fundamentals that have a pretty good chance of predicting for us whether or not we're going to be trending or mean reverting, right? For instance, because the Federal Reserve is injecting so much liquidity into the markets, we know that we are more likely to trend than we are to mean revert, yeah? But then that is not purely technical at that point, right? When people buy cheap calls with 5 delta, they are arbitraging. They think markets are going to rally, and delta for this option should be 50 or more. Yep. Matt says correct. You use your feel for how it's trending, yeah. And I think that that's part of what I do. So these trades that I catch, like this one that I'm trying to let run, which, by the way, puts me positive on the day now, because the first 3 losers were only 12, 15, and 17. And so then on that last one, if that last one had blown out, then I would have been done. I would have hit my limit. But this one, it was worked out and it was okay. And I didn't really take a whole lot of risk on it initially either, because, you know, I immediately caught a runner and took profits off it. And so then, even though it came back 8 ticks on me, it never went to losing money. Never went past my break even. You have not found a system, that's why it's hard. Well, I haven't found a system that's pure technicals. That's the whole point, right? Because there are definitely things that I look at to determine whether it's going to be trending or mean reverting. And if I think that it's going to be mean reverting, I usually stay out. Right? I haven't been able to find something that's pure technicals. I have searched around. I've tried a couple of different things. You know, when I do my strategies, I'll always go in and look at, so for instance, R squared, right? R squared is a really good indication of how much autocorrelation is in the market. And so I've done a lot of strategies where you're waiting for a certain amount of R squared to come in before you try and take any kind of trending entries, right? It helps, but it's not enough. Not nearly enough, I don't think. So, except for in this one specific market. So, but, so when I'm working from that framework, that's why I kind of get the conclusion that I do is you get 2 choices off of that. One is you can follow news and sentiment and trade that. Or 2, you can arbitrage. And here's what I've found. When I am just trading on news and sentiment and my feel for it, and I combine that with my reading of order flow and everything else like that, the conclusion that I come up with is that overall, I'm profitable with it, but that I have drawdowns that are too deep. That I don't know if it's me or what the deal is, but I get these periods where you lose too many times in a row. And it happens too often for it to just be random chance, right? And I'm having a hard time figuring out why that happens. So now what I'm trying to do is I've kind of seen a couple of things that make me believe that, hey, maybe I actually could arbitrage. Arbitrage is not. I always just kind of assumed that, the robots take all those out. You're not really competitive on that level. I've seen a couple of things now that make me think, actually, I think I could arbitrage. Arbitrage, like when the ES rallied all the way through the Capitol riots. Oh man, that was such a weird day, wasn't it? The thing that was weird to me about it was like reading it, watching it happen. Everybody kind of just thought it was a joke and it was kind of amusing. And then the next day it comes out, insurrection, and everybody was so freaked out about it and stuff. I was like, okay, like it was just a couple of stupid people, you know. It was a huge deal. But of course, remember when I said, like, I don't think that they'll really get anything off of it. And yeah, they haven't been able to charge anybody with sedition. So I guess I was right on that one. Oh, man. Everyone there seemed drunk. Well, apparently a lot of the people that were inside the Capitol, well, like, thought that they were allowed to do that. Like, that like, security was letting them through, and so they assumed that, like, the protest was moving in and that it was some exception. And I don't blame them, because, like, that's happened with Democrats before, like, when they've gone into Senate offices and stuff like that. But the problem is that the Democrats have had this phantom floating around for a long time now that Donald Trump is would foment revolution or do whatever possible to stay in power, which is, well, Donald Trump do everything possible within his power, legal under what he thinks is legal to the Constitution, to stay in power, and he did. And the whole reason that there was kind of an issue was because he thought that something was constitutional and his vice president did not. And I think the vice president was correct. Dem riots caused property damage over the summer. Yeah, same here. They flipped over 2 cop cars in Salt Lake, and we were all really shocked about it. It's a little startling how it seems like everybody's forgotten about all that. Yeah, and that's Salt Lake. Yeah, it is like, of all places to see that sort of a thing, that Salt Lake is like, what? Hmm. Hmm. So I'm looking at my strategy performance for today. It looks like all 4 of them ran fine. I got this one is the one that did the best. And off of 5 trades, he got 3 for 5. So it's not a lot of trades though, right? Unfiltered tape is new. Are you trying to gauge the pace of the market or something? Which one are you talking about? Oh, that right there. Yeah. I only have that one up there so that I'll get this little meter here. And what I'm trying to do with it is I'm trying to determine, based on the amount of volume that we're seeing come through, the chances of me getting a quick fill. So right now, at the moment, I'm not really getting enough activity to really get the trade that it's going to have to, I'm going to have to be in it for several minutes for it to get back up there if it's going to do it. treasuries are coming back pretty hard here. Kind of at a spot that maybe I might be interested in it again. Actually, back to where that original run happened, right? I think if I had taken that one where I took it from 27.5 to 28, so I was just seeing a spot where I could get it filled, but you know, if I had held it, it would have come back down. I probably would have bailed and then it would have gone up, so. Who's this? IG Squawk retweets Stalingrad and Porsky. Today is another disturbingly low volume day in Spoos. Well, it seems to me like these cell sweeps that come through are kind of spooking people. That it doesn't go away. And it's kind of turning into a what's going on? And I think it concerns people. Okay. So you know what I don't like about Ninja Traders, like the way that it looks at strategies and counts and everything, is like if I go to the positions window, it doesn't show me closed positions. There's no way for me to filter that. You can just look at like my overall, what you've made or lost. And all that I see is just all of my robots that I'm testing, and that Gabby took a loser today. She hasn't been doing well in this environment. No, she has not. I think she lost yesterday too. Well, they've come down a little bit. Tape still kind of looks like it wants to move up, though. Yeah. See, they liked that. Nice shave up there. What do you mean? I don't know. I guess it's time for me to get going, huh? I need to turn this machine on. I'm gonna leave this running, but we can just say for the purposes of the stream, you know, I did come out a little bit ahead on that trade, and then but you know I'm actually the one that I took in the treasury at the beginning. It means a lot to me, so that one worked really well. So. I mean, are you talking about my head? It's pretty smooth right now. It's I could probably buzz it again today. Okay, I should get going, guys. What should we put in today? Low volume. Low volume. Trading continues. All right, guys. And by the way, thanks for the donations today, guys. Definitely big for, you know, very, very. It means when people are willing to pay for it, that's like, wow. Like, thank you. I'm glad that it makes it all worth it, you know, makes me know that I'm doing it. Because that's the main thing is I I used to be like all about trying to get the approval. But then as I've gotten older, I've just kind of turned into I don't give a crap what anybody else thinks. But what does matter to me is like if people enjoy the content, because then I know if, you know, it should do better or worse. And so when people contribute, that means a lot. Thank you very much. Please create an options channel. Oh, we have stock and options. And there's the VIX channel too. Okay, stay profitable, friends.